What is happening, all you sexy YouTube warriors out there? Range Day Bro back at it again, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Tier 1 Concealed Modern Samurai Project Pro Flex Series holsters. Let's get into it. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. If you guys are anything like me and you've been stuck with the same gun and light setup because you invested way too much money in a bunch of different holsters, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button, guys. I've been there a million times, hence the reason why you see O-lights in a lot of my videos from early on. I have a bunch of Tier 1 concealed holsters that are just cut for O-lights because that's what I started with before I really knew any better. And so here we are today. You live and you learn, guys. This is a collaboration between the Modern Samurai Project and Tier 1 Concealed. Tier 1 Concealed has been one of my favorite holster manufacturers for quite some time now. Their fit and finish, their customer service is pretty top notch, and I'm the kind of guy, once you find something, buy once, cry once, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I've had no issues with their holsters or their service in the past, besides lead times, but they advertise that right there on their website, so I can't really complain about that, although it is longer than I'd like. But when the product comes in, it's well worth the wait. That's why I kind of stick with Tier 1 Concealed, and when this concept came out, I thought it was a genius idea. I was pretty upset I didn't come up with it by myself, but you live and you learn, and a man can admire ingenuity and great ideas, and that's what I believe this is right here. As you guys can tell from the title of the video, I do stand by my claim this is the last holster you'll ever need. If you're an appendix carry guy like myself, and if you're looking for the last appendix carry holster you'll ever need, this holster will fit every single semi-auto gun that I've put into it to date, including and not limited to up to the FLX 45 Tactical, which you guys saw in some of the opening footage. This is an absolute tank of a gun, and I don't know if I've ever even seen a handgun besides like a Desert Eagle or maybe the USP from HK that's even relatively the same size or larger than this. So if the gun can actually fit the TLR-1 HL on the rail, in my case, because that's the MSP version that I bought, was for the Streamlight, then it could fit in the holster, and you guys saw that in the intro footage. I switched the light out there, right there on the range, real time. There was no adjustment of any of the screws. There was no adjustment of any of the tension or the clips or anything like that. I just literally changed the light from gun to gun to gun, and I just threw it down in my belt and went ahead and started training with it. So it was really that simple, guys, and it's really that good of an idea. And before I start to throw all these guns in this holster, let's talk a little bit about the pros and the cons of this type of setup. So obviously this is an appendix carry holster, so we're not really going to get into the pros and cons of appendix carry. I'll just give you the kind of the reason that I like to go appendix, and a lot of people will look at me like I'm crazy, especially because I'm a big guy. I've got a bit of a gut, and yeah, it's a little bit more painful than something else like running on your hip. But to me, it's the fastest and most secure way to carry a gun. I just decided, once I discovered that appendix carry was as safe as it was, if you are as responsible as you are with your trigger discipline and your draw stroke, all that good stuff, I really can't go back now. At this point, I do have other holsters. I do sometimes, very rarely, carry on the side on my hip because this is just so effective and so comfortable with the right type of holster, with the right pant size, the right belt size. So appendix carry is right for me, and there's tons of videos out there on the internet for you to decide whether it's right for you or not. So right here is just one of the other Tier 1 concealed holsters that I own. This guy is outfitted for my Glock 19s. And I say 19s because a 19X would fit in here as well. But this holster is actually formed and cut for a O-light. I believe it's the PL Valkyrie Mini 2. Now let me just clear the air. I've never had an issue with any of my O-light products. I'm not sponsored by O-light, but I do have O-lights, and my holsters were cut for them because early on, those are the lights I ran before I really knew much better. But I will say this, a lot of guys complain and say you got an IUD on your gun. Well, guess what? I've never had an issue with it, and I've been running them for upwards of 4 years now. And the things that I thought were cool about O-lights at the time I was purchasing them, besides the price point, was the rechargeability. And as I grew and started learning more, I realized that those things weren't such a big deal to me. And in fact, the durability and reliability were much more important. And although those O-lights never failed me, I just decided to move towards more proven lights like the Streamlight, and I use Surefires on most of my rifles and things like that. So I'm not talking smack or condemning anybody who uses O-light. I just prefer Streamlight and Surefire lights nowadays. And so these older holsters are kind of useless to me at this point. The thing that stopped me from purchasing and running different lights on my guns were these holsters, because they do get so expensive. And this is only one of about 4 that I own that were cut for O-lights. When the Modern Samurai Project, or MSP holster, came out, this was like a godsend for me because I could buy one holster instead of having to buy 4 or 5 new holsters for all my different semi-auto guns. You guys will see I have several different striker fire pistols and one hammer fire single double action in the FNX 45. That will fit, this holster will fit all of those guns, and it's fit every gun I've ever put in here to date that fits the Streamlight TLR. Not only will this holster save you money, but it makes it really fun to be able to go to the range and train with different pistols, because you just have to change the light out. You don't have to change out your holster or buy other holsters. The biggest thing is the money savings on this thing. All right, so what makes the Tier 1 Concealed MSP so good? It's not that it's an amazing, incredible holster all on its own, an appendix holster. In fact, one of its downfalls is the size of it, but that given the versatility of the amount of firearms that you can put in this thing, that's kind of a you know, you can't have a free lunch, right? So if you're gonna fit an FNX 45 Tactical full size 45 ACP from FN with like a 5.5-inch barrel, you know, you're gonna have a longer holster here. What I'm trying to say is it's not any incredible holster standalone. In fact, if you have one gun with one light, probably suits you better just to go with a, you know, custom holster for that gun and that light. But being that I've invested so much money in individual holsters for a lot of the O-lights that I ran early on in my gun career, you know, these things add up. They're anywhere from $125 up to $160, $70, depending on some of the upgrades you can have, like camo pattern, like different clips, things of that sort, a wedge sizing pack. There's a lot of things that add up, and these things add up. So if you're like me, you've already spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on holsters, then this was kind of a godsend when this came out, because this enabled you to buy one holster and you'd have to focus on and obviously choose one light, because the way this thing works is it indexes on the light, but then you could buy one holster and run pretty much every semi-auto gun that you have in your arsenal in the same holster. Now, obviously there's a few exceptions to that. It has to have a rail that will fit one of the 3 lights that they currently are making these holsters for. The 3 lights are the TLR 1 HL from Streamlight, the Mod light, and the Surefire X300 light. So if it will fit one of those 3 lights, likely it will fit in this holster, up to and including the FNX 45 Tactical. So one of the negatives, one of the downfalls of this holster, because I've been talking it up like crazy, is the fact that it is an oversized holster. So there is a tiny bit of play in this thing, which you could expect given that its versatility and what kind of guns it can fit. And the other downside is if I'm running my Glock 19, I don't need all this length. It's a little bit longer than it needs to be, given the fact that it can, once again, fit all these different types of guns. With the FNX 45 in there, the barrel sticks out a little bit. With the Glock 19, it's quite a bit shorter, and you don't really need all this length down here at the bottom. So there's give and take, guys. Don't get me wrong, but all the footage you see at the range is actually filmed without making any adjustments to the screws, the tension screws, the clips, anything like that. All I'm literally doing is taking the gun out, removing the light, and switching the light out to a different rig, and then going right back to shooting and training with it. As you guys can see, I filmed it all in one shoot. I'll probably have to cut it up just for the sake of time. This holster is from the factory, the way they sent it to me, and it has good retention with all these different guns. Now, I'm not gonna come over here and shake it like a sandstorm, but once again, I haven't adjusted it at all, and you can see it's a full-size Glock 17, and it's got pretty good retention there. Once I decide what gun I'm gonna run with it, for a while, I'll tighten these screws up and get the right retention that I like. But for the sake of this review, I left it exactly how it came. And as you guys can tell, it's super speedy, and it's the same exact quality that you'd expect from Tier 1 Concealed that I've come to expect. Without further ado, let me swap this light out and go from smallest to largest as far as my collection goes, and just show you guys how they all fit and how they all look. All right, so here we have a Glock 19 in gray. This guy has custom millwork from Maple Leaf Firearms. They did the sawtooth pattern on the top. This is their duty cut. One of my favorite carry guns and one of my smallest full-size or double-stack carry guns, you can call it. You have a little bit of extra space down here at the bottom, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of unneeded holster here. Let's move it up to Glock 19X. Obviously, with the TLR, that's what it looks like. This guy also has the slide milled from Maple Leaf Firearms. They did the RMR cut with the rear sight forward as the 19 had. And then I have the PMM comp on here with a Safari Precision barrel. Comp sticks barely out of the bottom right there. And so you guys can tell, once again, it fits. It's got good retention in there. It's not falling out. There's a Glock 19X with the PMM comp. I accidentally glossed over the HK VP9. This here local in Texas. That's what that guy looks like with the TLR from Streamlight. And once again, this guy fits in there. The light index is down here in this bottom portion, but we still have about 1 inch of unused space there, which is good for a threaded barrel, anything like that. I don't know if I mentioned yet, but this is their Recon, orange Recon that they have. It's a really dope camo pattern or topographic pattern. As you guys could tell, I'm a big fan of topographic. Let's move on back to the Glock 17, which you guys saw in the opening shot. Their agent cut, I believe it's called. Here it is with a TIN coated barrel, Glock 17. And once again, you guys can tell there's a tiny bit of extra space there. The light index is right where it always does. And this guy just fits in really, really cleanly. It is money in there, guys. It's just so the FNX 45, you can even see it's just a tiny bit of play, guys. But once again, I haven't touched any of these screws, and I've been running it for actually a couple weeks now. As you guys could tell, and as I mentioned earlier, you see that the barrel is sticking out right there, right out of the tip of the holster. So you have room for your threaded barrels for any of you guys who are wondering or worried about that. And for the magazine caddy, which I haven't talked about, for the backup magazine right here, it does fit the FNX 45 TAC mag. However, it is very tight because I have it adjusted right now for my Glock magazines, which I did tighten down this paracord right here. That's how you adjust this guy. If I was running the FNX 45 in here primarily, I would definitely loosen that up a bit to get it to fit better and less be less tight like it is right there. But it does fit the Glock 17 perfectly. It's the right retention that I like. While I got you guys on camera, I'm gonna tighten the screws up on this to get the correct retention that I want for my Glock 17, 19, and 19X, because those are the 3 guns I'm gonna primarily be running. All right, guys, so I just tightened up these 3 screws over here on the right-hand side, which is what increased my retention for the holster. Now you see my Glock 17 in here. I'm shaking it, and I'm shaking it pretty violently. I could probably shake it out if I wanted to, but let's see. Really can't shake it out. Okay. That's how I like it, guys. I like to make sure that this thing is really tight and that it's not going to accidentally fall out. If I'm getting in a tussle, if someone tackles me or whatever, I want to be able to make sure that's going to stay in the holster where it belongs. And then right now, I'll just practice a few draw strokes with you guys to show you how intuitive it really is. All right, so I lowered the camera so you guys can see my waistline a little bit better. So I'm just going to practice my draw stroke as I normally would. So here's what we're going to do. This is how I practice the range. Hands up. Hear my timer go off. I'm gonna practice some dry fire right now. You're clear. Just see how it sits in my pants, guys, and it conceals very well. Now I am 6'1", about 265 pounds. So you guys can tell, as of right now, this is an extra large Range Day Bro shirt. You can pick these up on rangedaybro.com. But these guys are, this shirt is easily concealing this full-size Glock 17 in a t-shirt. So even in summer weather, fall weather, obviously it's a little bit easier in the winter time when you're wearing bigger jackets, bigger garments, things like that. But even in just a t-shirt, guys, this thing conceals really well. This light is beaming down on me. And I'm not printing. If I turn all the way to the side, I stick my belly out, you can see it. But when I'm standing up straight, it disappears in the waistline. And it is super fast. Once you get practiced in and train with your dry fire, get confident with reholstering, and I think Tier 1 Concealed in Modern Samurai Project just knocked it out of the park. Now, all that play I was talking about, still a little bit of it there, as you can tell, forward and backward, but once again, given the adaptability and the versatility of this holster, I am extremely impressed. That is something I can easily live with when the retention is there. I can't shake this thing out if I wanted to. All right, guys, so lastly, I went to my local gun shop and I actually did a little bit of dress up with this holster. I didn't film any of it, but I will let you know that to my immense joy, the Staccato 2011s did fit in this because I do have a dream fantasy about owning one of those one day, specifically the Staccato P. So it's their full size fit in this because it does have the rail that fits the Streamlight. So not to fear, if you're a Staccato 2011 fan, this holster does work with it. And every other gun that I tried while there, the guns that you would expect to fit, like the CZ P10C and other things of that sort, of that nature, SIGs that are striker fired, about the same-ish sizes of these Glocks and these different guns that we tried out today. They all fit in here, so don't be worried about that, guys. If there's any guns you want to see specifically tried on in this holster, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll post something to either IG or my YouTube community page. That's gonna wrap it up for today's video, guys. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the video. If it's your first time here, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel monetarily, please head over to rangedaybro.com where you can pick up any of the merch, t-shirts, and we've got some really cool things coming out here soon. And until next time, stay safe, stay dangerous. Range Day Bro, out.